capitalism, all of the gains in automation, it goes to the owner class. All you have to do is have everyone be an owner, and now suddenly any gain in automation is a gain for everybody. If you grow just one thing, it may not grow as well as if it grows with another thing. A good example of that is called the Three Sisters method of farming.
There is definitely multi-apartment buildings or multi-families that do passive design.
$100 million that they gave to Joe Rogan that they would kind of be out if they breach contract. Is that a bigger number, or is 2 billion a bigger number?
I don't know, Zach.
It's a tough one. I
It's
know,
really hard.
and maybe comparing numbers is not Jeremy's strong suit. Gotta go kill a Jenny.
I still don't think you should kill her. I don't think it's a good idea.
It's a ghost, dude. Welcome back, everybody, to Bread Theory. Tonight, as per usual, I have Dan Platt of the Three Left Show and What's Left in Albany on, and we're going to talk, I guess, whatever's on his mind tonight.
Well, and new municipalism or libertarian municipalist policy practice. How do we make our utopian dreams a reality without moving to the woods and middle of the woods and going Dutch? Not what does it mean Dutch? To live in a van bound by the river.
That's right.
Outside of, we need to escape society. But do you ever really escape society?
No.
Except for that family that moved to the middle of Alaska or something, and they were completely isolated. It was weird. I finally gave blood for the first time.
First time? Hey, congrats.
Last time it's because of the convenience that they're doing the drive in my office building. And the last time I was in this building, a SUNY admin in New York, I had the sniffles, so they didn't let me give blood. Interesting thing though was when I mentioned on in the pamphlet of like reasons you shouldn't or can't give, they still have if you've had gay sex, or if you're a woman, if you've had sex with someone who has gay sex. I mentioned this, and the nurse actually mentioned that the FDA finally got off their ass and changed those rules. So she said that will be different in a month.
Nice.
This was something that I think I learned about in college as one of those things that's like, how is there still homosexual discrimination? Well, you're not allowed to give blood if you're gay because of AIDS risk. But it's like, it's long since past that. It's not just the gay thing, and even if you're gay, the chances of you're going to be tested for HIV. It shouldn't just be, have you had gay sex? It should be, have you tested for HIV, which is what most all those questions have been added. So it's more about getting rid of. But it wasn't just that. It was also have you done anything with someone who's homosexual? So those I didn't get to before. Jeez. So I don't know if this is like, with the Biden administration's like, this is what makes them so progressive. They finally got the FDA to move on that.
Yeah, I guess
something
that
of
is
that nature.
progress.
And that's the big progress.
Well,
love it.
He's won my vote over now.
Oh yes. No, pack it up, Cornell. No need for you now. I noticed when he gives interviews, though, he is definitely like, depending on the show, they really let him talk, and he really does. Like when they ask him a question, he will give a 20-minute. He will talk for 20 minutes. I don't really like that, but it seems that the podcasters love it because they don't have to work.
Well, I mean, he's pretty good at staying on message. He's had enough media training in his lifetime that he knows where he's going. He's not just going to ramble into some blind alley.
It was the Black Appalachia podcast in particular.
Oh, okay. I haven't listened to that one yet.
So because maybe it was so friendly that he was just so like casual with it, and they were all nodding at everything, so they didn't really care that he, they didn't want specifics. They didn't need it, I guess.
Right.
But hey, if you want specifics, read the Green Party platform. It shouldn't just be there's the Cornel West platform and then there's the Green Party platform, Because unlike, say, in the Democratic Party, which doesn't have a coherent platform or platform that anyone cares about or follows, the Greens do. And we do want our candidates to follow it somewhat. You can disagree with maybe 20% or something like that. Like there's a ratio. You can disagree with parts, you know. For example, one of our main 10 key values is decentralization. And depending on the context, that can be really, really bad. It's sort of like there's the hippie values of decentralization of small is beautiful. What's wrong with corporations is that they're big. What's wrong with states, and that's what allows things to be authoritarian, kind of ignoring that small things can also be authoritarian.
Yeah.
So
that's true. Plenty of small business tyrants out there, for example.
Right. So that's decentralization is sort of how capitalism functions, because it's anarchistic in its structure, at least is with firms competing against each other. That's decentralization at work too, but I think it's more we want decentralization within organizations, even if that organization is a big super state like central planning body. But it's sort of like that's the tightrope that's walked where I'm with every passing year, maybe it's age. This is my way of being conservative. Like, oh, when you're older, you'll get more conservative. I guess it means for me, it's I'll be more statist, because it's compelling. It feels like an immature line of reasoning of like, well, corruption occurs because there's power that's concentrated. So we just have to make sure power doesn't concentrate. It's like, no, it's more like sociopaths concentrate power wherever they are. So we kind of want structures that don't allow that.
Prevent that part, yeah.
And even if bureaucracy isn't the tool, of course, to be statist but not bureaucratic. And that's where the videos we're going to be covering kind of come in, because it kind of requires the statist functions. But so is well, there again, there's the three types of municipalisms. Two are statist in format, reformist, but one's more radical, and then one is like the co-op Jackson, where it's completely grassroots and anti-statist in its thing. But the platformist version, which is sort of the participatory budgeting, its tagline is to struggle within and with to overcome the state, which is something that as leftists and anarchists don't want to deal with. They don't want to deal with the state. They want to ignore it. They want to say we don't need it. We need to model that. We need to model that future without a state, whether it be authoritarian or not. So so I understand like the motives and all that, but sometimes it comes out and I don't know, bad strategy or just where's the movement? How's it fun? How's if you don't have power,
you have to organize somehow. Organizing does.
I mean, there's organizing the state. There's ignoring the state, and there's organizing. There's ignoring power.
Right.
That exists because it's like, well, power is bad. Power corrupts, absolutely. Does it though? I think there's a sort of maybe a reverse motto needs to be formed of like point out how kind of bunk that can be. For example, so with the decentralization thing, I'm reminded of this conversation because of Bill Kimmel, one of the talks that I just watched at work. I love my job, and I was able to watch the Green Party national meeting, which is going on this weekend, or has gone on.
Nice.
And he's an old timer. He's like 83, so he admits he's losing it. But he was talking about when I think of decentralization, I'm thinking of the time I'm in this South Carolina state capitol, and a big painting of Robert E. Lee is just looking down on me. That's what decentralization means to me. So he's a proud Hamiltonian, and there's too many Jeffersonians around. He's very old-fashioned in the way he talks about things, but he's really old-fashioned in that he really comes at things in a philosophy. He starts with the philosophy, but then it's like you got to think about the psychology. So he's more like, it doesn't really have implications for organizing to me, but he's like, you got to look at politics as being psychological. The authoritarian, he's really stuck up because again, when he graduated college, the authoritarian mind a book, had a big impact, The Authoritarian Mind. And he published his own version, or his thesis was the anti-authoritarian mind. What are the kinds of things and personality, like capabilities that make up the anti-authoritarian? And so he kind of sees things that way, which kind of reminds me of, what's the author that's like liberals and conservatives are like different brain, sides of the brain, and he does this he does a similar thing, but he refers to the Hegel versus Feigenbach or something. But anyway, you'll be sharing a link to Green Party videos that has all the videos from all the different talks and presentations. They're usually in an hour or so, an hour and change. Sorry, no TED Talk formats. But they all the talks the lectures are pretty much half hour, 40 minutes, and then there's Q&A afterwards. So it's not a full hour, but these aren't they're podcast length, not TikTok length. So basically, our unless there's the presidential nominating convention, our national meetings are all online. We kind of like it that way, especially since the attendance is usually just 100 people or so. It could be more, but this is fine. But you get finally had to meet the steering committee, and I learned that I think it's Margaret Kimberly, who is the head of the Lavender Caucus, is now one of the co-chairs, and a trans woman is one of the co-chairs of the Green Party overall.
Hey, nice.
If only she was invited on TV. Because I always kind of face palm when so it's like, Green Party, aren't there transphobes in there? Like, well, no.
Do you really face that? Are people of that perception, really?
It depends on what kind of internet pill they're on. But
internet, sure, yeah.
The less you know, the more uncertainty there is, the more conflict. What else can I say about it? A different kind of totally different context, but I always have a good sense of satisfaction when I can explain to someone what a co-op is for the first time ever. This was in the hood, and they're talking about like their entrepreneurial program for the kids or something, and I'm like, why don't we teach them how to start a co-op? And she's like, what's that? And so,
wow.
So I was like, let's here we go. And she was, and of course, whenever you explain it properly, without judgment, then they're like, yeah, that's so cool. That's great. That's so much better. That sounds great. And everyone pretty much agrees that co-op strategy is pretty good. I mean, co-op strategy is in the leftist field, but as far as just talking to regular people, because they're not going to let go of market economics, but to have firms that are fair and worker-based, that's something that everyone pretty much likes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's probably good, no matter, even if the IWW is squeamish about it. And so am I, but it's a place to start, as well as all of the new municipalist stuff,
right?
The local politics, which is why it always annoys me talking about presidential politics and the Cornel West campaign, because you have all these people coming in asking questions or arguing about, like, they're still thinking like a decade ago it's just like politics is real politics or real organizing. I'm like, don't argue with us here. Go into your neighborhood and talk about the issues. This was people going like, can we have an open discussion on this, page? And I'm like, well, no, you're either here to support Cornel West or you're not. So yeah, you're gonna get some shit thrown at you and some trolling. If you're all gonna, if you're gonna bring in we got to make sure we're nice to Democrats and progressives so we can win them over. Like, if we haven't won them over yet, I don't know what's gonna take.
They're probably not coming over. Yeah.
There's people in your neighborhood that are perfectly able to be won over, and they've never voted in their whole life. Now, on the flip side,
yeah, absolutely.
I was at a wedding and there's some odd small talk that occurred where she asked me, um, where like she asked me about my Green Party work as
Mm-hmm.
to make small talk, but
Sure.
again, it's like you should ask me about something else because when I talked about Green Party and why I do it, she was like, "Oh yeah, I'm apolitical. I just don't want anything to do with anything. Government. I hate it. I don't want to do. Don't want to participate at all." She used the word
Which hey
participate.
is
She's a,
understandable.
this is an
But yeah.
educated woman, architect,
Uh-huh.
creative, and I'm like, I don't think you understand that. Was like, I maybe I need to. The next time I'll talk to her, I'll mention it. But again, she was just making small talk. That's my assumption. Maybe I'll talk to the fiance. Um, you understand that's a conversation ender. That it's such a conversation ender. You probably didn't mean it that way. You were just giving your side of it and your perspective. But it's like what that's like basically saying like I'm talking about veganism and you're like, yeah, I like the taste of bacon. I don't
Yeah.
really care
Yeah.
about animal rights. I just, it's like what kind of conversation is that? That's not even good small talk. So
No.
there's a little grinding. There's all kinds of interactions you can have is the take. So you should
Right.
be prepared, and I kind of froze up because I didn't know what to do with that. And again, it was small talk at a wedding table, so I'm like,
Right, right.
in
Yeah.
2 minutes something else is gonna happen. We're just waiting for dinner to come around. um, but meanwhile, I was talking to two other artists at this wedding,
Nice.
and one was a political as well. He's just a
Mm.
photographer. He cares about photos. But the other guy mentioned he actually was starting some political discussion group, or he was part
Oh.
of one. So I'm like, oh, cool. You are interested. Tell me more. What are you doing? And it was more like the have you heard of prison? Sorry, not prison abolition, museum abolition.
I can guess what that entails. I've not heard of
It's
that
not it's
concept.
not complete abolition like with prisons. It's just more about
Sure.
transforming the prison to something more democratic and not just elitist circle jerk of the rich.
Sure.
And explain how to
Museum.
explain art and interpret art to the people.
I see.
Um, so that was what his group is talking about. So
That's cool though.
I mentioned I didn't we got cut off. We didn't continue the conversation, but it's like I didn't have that much more to contribute from there. Because if he was doing some kind of campaign, I'd give him tips. I'd talk about what resources he could look
Yeah.
into. But with that, I'm like, well, I'll just mention that there's like people who talk about abolishing the museum. I've read a blog post. That's the extent of my interest. Um, but when I go to museums, I look for when the programming there is woke and how is it being woke. Like when you go to Canadian museums, like what do they do with the indigenous art? Because
Mm.
I guess in Canadian history there was a big indigenous art market.
Really?
When the northern tribes were kind of being integrated into the economy, it was just like, well, we can't hunt like we used to. We're getting constrained in what we can do with our land. We'll make art and sell it to white people. So there's tons of this. Now I'm forgetting the the tribe's name.
Oh, Aleut, Inuit.
Inuit, yes, Inuit art. That's it.
Cool.
And oh yeah, I like this one gallery at the main big fine arts museum in Montreal, where they would have the ancient art gallery, but they would sprinkle in modern pieces by
Hmm.
by contemporary artists
Contemporary artist
um
from the.
from that area, from
Aha.
whatever area. So they would
Nice.
have let's say with the African mask, they would then have a contemporary art piece by someone from the Ivory Coast, or it was a video showing it was like a performance art, but it was basically video of showing the the ivory tusks from the poachers,
Mm-hmm.
basically like being like built into these little mountains and basically lit on fire, and it's a video of like that fire, and the ivory burning.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. I didn't know they lit it on fire. I thought they just like I'd heard of them dyeing it before, dye it pink or something like that and make it
that
useless.
destroys it.
But yeah.
Well, I guess that's probably better than burning it. It was from the 90s, so maybe they do it now.
Yeah. That's interesting though.
It was weird. Adbusters had a picture of a dehorned rhino to say like conservationists are saving the rhino by cutting off its horn, but that basically makes the rhino have an identity crisis or traumatizes them.
Does it really? Oh,
well, Adbusters exaggerates, and I can never know what the fuck they really mean or if like they were telling the truth about anything. Adbusters is really disappointing me these days because they are repeating their content from a decade ago. They're really not coming up with anything new, and it sucks. It's obviously any issue is new for the person who picks it up for the first time, but it's not the kind of magazine that you have a subscription to year after year and get something out of it. Like I think for 2 years straight, I got a subscription, and I like that they actually made it in a magazine format size, but then they went back to making them big. And I'm like, these are harder to store. They, don't fit in my bail box. I can't share them that easily. And they make them big because they're reconcentrating on like big photo spreads and their text and their art, but they're not putting in articles. And without those, it's like you're just making an art. It's a zine. It's still just a zine, which I guess it's all it always was. But why would I subscribe to something more than 1 year at a time, especially when it's literally content that they're repeating from years ago? So I'm really disappointed with Adbusters. I may have to, if I cut to it, maybe at the end of the year, I'll email the editors and say like, what's going on? Are you like short staffed and you have to like you can't do your own research anymore, or to find cool articles that you would put in there? Anyway, so I've jabbed enough, but that's our opening. Our douchebag bupper, our 20-minute douchebag bupper.
All right. Well, let's. Which one would you like to tackle first then? Do you want to do the budget one? The what if you control the budget?
Yeah, we'll start with those fun ones, and then we'll move to the Barcelona ones.
All right.
Because the Barcelona is more generalized in the picture. It's a it's a lecture or a talk. I guess it's more of a TED talk, but it's 20 minutes. The participatory budgeting is more just in your face, like this is cool. So I'll leave it up to you.
Participatory budgeting. Yeah, that sounds
okay. This is the
place. One. Yep, by the Atlantic. Adopting a process called participatory budgeting, which was first implemented in Brazil over 25 years ago. It is the largest experiment in participatory democracy in United States history. Public one.
All right, one last question. Clap really loud if you are satisfied with the way funds are spent in city government these days. Okay, now let's hear clap if you think you could do a better job of making some of those decisions. Budgets are really the essence of what government does, right? So we're kind of cutting out a lot of the talk and rhetoric around budgeting and allowing community members to make direct decisions about money in their community. It's our taxpayer dollars. So why not allow us to have a greater say in how money gets spent in our community?
Este dinero tiene que apoyar a nuestra comunidad porque hay muchas necesidades.
So for a little context, which another video that I could dig up has, but it's not the one that I've shared. How this happens in America is some cities, like in New York City, the alderman or council person will have some kind of discretionary funds. In New York City, it's $1 million. And there was an alderman in Chicago that I think he did it with $100,000 or whatever he was budgeted. So there are these contexts where you have a progressive person who likes this idea, and for the direct democracy side of it, with the discretionary money they're allowed to have. I know that participatory budgeting was done in one California city, and they raised it was tied to a sales tax that they did. So they did a sales tax to raise that $1 million, or well, I think it was $1 million, and then that $1 million was specifically for the participatory budgeting process, because this is particularly like it's in Brazil when it's Porto Alegre, it's like 40% of the city's budget is decided with a participatory process that includes thousands of people. In America, we're just getting started, and of course, with our local government structures, it's like whatever money that's laying around or available, or pork barrel spending, when it's allocated in that way. But instead of legislators deciding how to spend it, what projects to pick and win and lose, well, let's let people pick. So you'll see more of that.
All right. Okay.
Aquí, y viene mucha gente rica, y no queremos un desplazamiento de nuestra comunidad, sino queremos enriquecerla y revitalizarla. Eso es lo más importante.
Here's a map of our district.
Entonces, los proyectos que estemos hablando tienen que ser un proyecto que dure más de 5 años en la comunidad.
We're along the highway. I live literally on 57th and 3rd. When I get home at this hour of night, I'm literally with my cell phone in my hand, like this, clutching my bag, because it's dark. It's scary at night.
I want to do like the side streets, let's say between 45th all the way to 50 something.
That's a good idea. Yeah, between like 3rd and 5th.
我周圍佢全部有空做。你寫嗰度，佢到時整嗰度嘅，你唔寫嗰度唔整。
Para ayudar a los jóvenes. Compren un edificio específicamente
Que sea como un centro de la comunidad.
Como un centro de la comunidad.
Imagínate que uno tenga un centro.
Todos queremos eso.
Pero es que no hay.
Imagínate que hay un centro.
Más gentes tendremos los votos, pero tenemos que.
So there's just all sorts of ideas that people are throwing out. It's basically anything. It's not.
Well, the opening meeting is always just brainstorming, right? Okay. So the idea is you have the brainstorming, then you form out of the assembly there committees of citizens to then develop ideas within a category. Let's say is it street infrastructure? Is it social? Is it transportation? It's a bus stop here, and those committees form the proposals, they develop them with city experts. So the expert is the one who's basically doing the heavy lifting, right? The committee is simply finding out some of the details of it. And the proposals are then what is voted on by the general public in the general election. There's a different ballot. So instead of bubbles, the regular ballot, it's a ballot with all the proposals, and you basically pick, 5 out of 50. And the top winners, they're the ones that get funded. If it adds up to the $1 million, I guess. I don't know. I think the idea is that all the proposals are like what they should be 1/5 of $1 million. That's what they should cost, or the average cost of it.
Gotcha.
Unirnos para los mismos proyectos, eventualmente, en fin.
La pregunta sería, ¿cómo podemos trabajar juntos en la comunidad para que entonces tenemos que trabajar?
Pregúnteles.
¿Por qué? No, porque ustedes son los representantes del gobierno.
Estoy interesado. No me paga nadie, no soy político, nada de eso. La comunidad está aquí alrededor tuyo y es lo mismo para... Mire, pero señora, la misma cosa... Un momento, pero la cosa es que es la misma pregunta sobre esto. Somos la única mesa en español, esta comunidad hay muchas personas que hablan español. Entonces, ¿qué vamos a hacer nosotros para atraer más personas cuando es tiempo de votar?
Unir.
Esa es la cosa, porque todo esto se necesita organizar. No podemos pedirle ni a Carlos Menchaca, ni a fulanito. Es nosotros. ¿Quién vamos a traer? 2 amigos más, 3 amigos más y aumentarlo. No es pedir que alguien lo solucione. Aquí está la solución, se tiene que ver si es para, sea para la vivienda, sea para el waterfront, sea para este proyecto.
Para los jóvenes.
Para los jóvenes. Se tiene que hablar con otras madres, traer más personas.
Tenemos que ser más inclusivos.
Más que todo.
Compañeros, ya pronto, ya la gente ya está acabando. Hay más ideas que queremos agregar que no hemos hecho.
I think their editor went a little crazy with the ambiance.
Yeah, it's a lot of establishing shots there.
Where would you put those benches?
Right here. Right here, 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 and somewhere along here. So they have... And repair what's already there.
There's a bench that is missing. A bench was never installed. There's the platform and there's no bench, and nobody checked on that?
On the basketball courts, they got rid of all the benches that are in the courts, and they never replaced them.
That's a great project. That's a project, and it's very specific. It's like benches on the basketball courts, period.
How does that work? So what happens now? What's the next step? I guess I'm just going with the flow because I've never done this before. I've never gotten, and you know, I don't have no idea.
No, good question. Did you go to the city and the city approved what is good or no? No has. And the 50 and it's 15 go to the ballot.
We choose as a community.
Well, I'm hoping that's what happens, but that's the ultimate goal.
I exaggerate when I say 50 projects. It's okay, 15. 15 are on the ballot, and maybe it's the top 3.
Okay. Top 3 or so.
Yeah, that's New York City.
Yeah.
But I mean, ideally, it's like you could have 50 different things, and you pick a few. And that's how some firms kind of do it. Like when firms are hired as consultants, or where the firm is designing a public project, and when they want community input, they can't do a participatory or community like a direct democracy process because they are designing it. But when they take input, they'll kind of do this where they'll be the committees and present 15 options, and they'll basically like use polling. It's not great, it's not a plebiscite, but they do polling and input meetings to kind of get something like a affirmation of what is popular. Popular vote. So they'll integrate the top 3 things that people like the most out of the 15 parts that they presented, and it's like, okay, we'll make sure the project has those 3 things. Or sometimes what they'll do, and this sort of kind of can become kind of a shell game where you have is like, okay, we'll have 3 proposals, and we'll let you the people pick, but of course we're not going to put it on a ballot or anything. We'll just, again, it's polling, it's like petitions, like go onto this website, we'll share that, and then you can vote. It's completely voluntary. I guess all voting is like that, but most people, like, it's based on social media whether you get the link to vote on the pool design, which was the case I'm thinking of here in Albany. We have a really big public pool, and we're rebuilding it because it's been leaching water for 20 years, and
what happened there? Well, looks like Dan has frozen. I don't know what happened. I'm not seeing any drop in connectivity. That's really bizarre. I think we'll just continue on then. and see if we can get Dan back and hooked up.
Very good the conversation. See you next week. Next Thursday.
More establishing shots. It's really a lot to understand.
If you do it in Spanish, you might be able to put it English on one side, Spanish on the back side, put the letters in the end.
So this is a project to help fix the basketball court that we need fixed.
That's it. So we're gonna try to fix this nice.
We have so many crime lately, last 6 months or so. We have a lot of women got raped, go home 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, and also got robbed. Spanish people, same thing. Chinese people, same thing. I'm gonna put a clock on. So they want something like a camera, right, on the street. So we're making a poster for security camera. Keep communities safe.
Nuestra escuela ya es muy antigua. Son 100 años con los mismos baños. ¿Usted sabe lo que es ir a un baño con esa antigüedad?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a powerful visual they're putting together there. I don't think I would want to use that. Like, I mean, yeah, a lot of this staining is just from rust in the water over years. Maybe even still is hooked up to well water system rather than no, there's no way. It's got to be municipal water now, but still looks like they could use some updating. I like all these poster boards they're putting together. It's not quite like a science fair, but it's more like I don't know, like a history fair, or it just reminds me of kids putting together stuff on those, you know, trifold boards to explain whatever their topic was they got assigned. And I assume the idea is that this is to entice community members to vote for one thing or another. So there's like their little advocacy pitch for their particular pet project.
Mis hijas, tengo una hija de 18 años que se graduó de ahí, tengo una de 10 que este año se gradúa, pero tal vez mis nietos les toque ir ahí para que vayan en nuevos baños. Y yo por mi parte espero que gane mi proyecto. A ver qué pasa.
Oh, the possibilities. Love it. I don't know what has happened to Dan. He's just completely cut out. I don't see any messages from him. It was just like he was snapped out of existence. That's a shame. I really hope he can get his whatever issue it is fixed quick so he can get back on track.
So at night you can cross when it's dark.
Where are their cameras now? I mean, there's gotta be some cameras.
See the camera. I can't. I would not be on board with the camera project. Yay camera. That's not exactly what I think when I see a bunch of cameras in public places. I think, oh great, it's more Big Brother. It's more opportunity for police to monitor and potentially harass people. No. Probably the best book that I've read on the subject of community safety, I would say would be The Death and Life of Great American Cities by Jane Jacobs. We'll probably go through at least a good chunk of that at some point, at least cover her principles that she laid out. But one of her main ideas was, for a place to be safe, there has to be people there all the time. So that it's not only just the so-called eyes on the street of, you know, people having balconies or windows they can look out from to keep track, but it's also many different uses over the course of the day and night, so that people are coming and going all the time, and that there's safety in numbers of people. Some good person will stand up if someone is being harassed or whatever. So this doesn't really this does not really cover that. This is just more at best criminals will go to a place where there's not cameras and continue on. And at worst, it's just going to make people feel under scrutiny all the time and not any more safe. But it's nice that people are at least thinking about how to make their community safer, even if this is probably not the best solution.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be some cameras. It is dark.
So it is dark, they're saying too. So like lighting is another part of that. But well lit but empty areas can still be dangerous. It's just that they, less dangerous than dark and empty areas.
Have been vetted by the Department of Parks and Rec, and they said these are viable locations.
I'd much rather this than a charge.
Green streets under the, what was that, the Brooklyn Queens Express? It's not as though I know New York geography all that well. It looks a lot like some of the landscaping design work that I do for my job. Looks like they just want to put a bunch of plants. It's probably not a great idea to put it right underneath it, because plants need water, which comes from the sky. So that kind of blocks that. It's hard to tell. Maybe it's in front of it, just kind of on the boundaries of it. But then also plants need light. So, I'm seeing a lot of sun, but maybe some semi-sun loving plants there. So black-eyed Susan, some either swamp milkweed or Joe Pye. It's hard to tell. Sedge. Yeah, interesting idea. I don't. I mean, I guess adding natural spaces to any area makes it look nicer. Sorry. Oh, it looks like Dan is back, so we'll try and reconnect. Hello again.
Hey.
What happened there?
I didn't hear any thunder, but there was a blip in my power supply.
Oh,
everything just turned off, and then 20, 30 seconds later, it's back.
Okay.
So just a hard restart.
Okay. Wow. That's I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad it didn't affect your area too much.
That's well, there's also I've been told my upstairs neighbor / tenant has been causing brownouts on herself from too many appliances or one particular appliance. She was she needed to keep resetting her own. It didn't affect the rest of the building, but because they are in separate circuits, but she had to keep going to the circuit box to re-trip it.
Oh man!
Or she kept tripping the breaker.
That much of a power draw, huh? She like running the microwave, the hair dryer, the air conditioner.
She tells us she's not doing that. It's hard to know. Maybe it's an air fryer.
Ah, yeah, the infamous air fryer.
Sorry. So we're on the step where they present the projects in a community forum.
They got their trifold boards like you use in elementary school, and they're putting their best foot forward here. I'm not really understanding this green streets underneath the BQE. That would be the Brooklyn Queens Express, right? Is that what BQE is?
No, it's the it's the bitches, queens, and Electra. No, damn it! It needed to be another different Q word. Bitch and queers excellence. Bitch and queer excellence. That's what
it is from now on. But
yes, Bronx Queen Expressway.
Bronx Queen, not Brooklyn. Okay.
B is not usually for Brooklyn. So Bronx Queens.
Yeah, I don't know New York City geography that well.
Well, there isn't too many highways going between Queens and Brooklyn. There are, of course. So maybe it is Brooklyn Queens, but usually B is Bronx.
Gotcha.
Well, at least in my head, I've heard Bronx Queen Expressway more than Brooklyn Queens Expressway. But maybe that's just because I'm traveling between Bronx and Queens more often than I am Brooklyn and Queens, which is never.
But anyway, it looks like they just want to do some plantings kind of next to the expressway.
Well,
sure.
Green Street is just shrubbery,
Yeah.
Green Street. No, yeah, I know. To me, Green Street is like a fully unpaved street, or something, depaved. But no, Green Street's usually just more shrubbery and gardens. So
maybe I just
because right now there's nothing. I mean, it's just concrete and hard surface. So just putting some softscapes in.
That you're driving by. So is this a double-decker bridge then? Because you're not going to be able to see it from that top level. So I got to imagine cars are driving right next to it. Is that the deal?
Well, there's the avenue that's under it.
Okay, so it is.
So you're not going to have a linear park because you have the highway above and then you have an avenue below. It's not the highway. The highway is already on 2 levels. Well, no, I don't think it's on 2 levels. You're thinking of Boston or some other city that built. Houston, I think, built double-decker highways, but they're both ways. But then you got the avenue that's under it.
Okay.
So you can't have you can't have some linear park like Miami has under their trains.
Interesting.
Charging table for laptop users at the Sunset Park Library. I mean, some of these things shouldn't even be on here, like pedestrian safety sidewalk extensions. I mean, that should just be. That should be done.
There's nothing wrong about that.
Well, that's the thing too. If you vote for things, and there are other items on here that a lot of people came out and showed support for, Carlos Menchaca, just like in other districts, those council members can say, hey, this didn't get all the votes, but it's such a good idea. I love it. I'm going to take some of my other funding and make it happen.
It's not about me being innovative. It's about him bringing me to the community so we can jointly work on issues of capital money, eligibility, and making sure that this program grows. And if I could just do a political thing, can I do a political thing?
It cut off when it said that. Probably just like promoting the primary day or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Should I turn your volume back down?
Maybe it was about complaining about Adams or something. I don't know. Adams doesn't want us to do any of this. If he had his way, he'd say fuck all you.
That's right. He wouldn't even be out at these sorts of events. The bum.
The slob.
That's right. More establishing shots.
Good time.
Did you guys already vote today? There are $2 million for the members of the community to vote.
I saw briefly on that sign that it says they're allowing 16-year-old and older people to vote. So that's interesting.
Yes.
Bringing in
the great thing about these elections is that since they're not under the Board of Elections, you can drop the voting age to, well, whatever you want, but they drop it to 16. Ideally, I would drop it to 14. Baby steps.
Yeah.
On where to put the money.
16, I guess, makes sense to a lot of people because of the driving age.
Yeah, it was also the age a lot of kids
but
get their first
I
job
think of the
like
working age. If you can work in the economy,
can you work at 14 in New York?
Yeah. The minimum working age is 14. Is that not the case in other states?
I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty sure I got my first job at 15, but I could be just misremembering that.
Well, maybe it's like it just feels right to start at 15 when you're allowed to start at 14.
There's a loophole that I'm sure the golf lobby or whatever put in that you can be a caddy at a country club at 13. So there's that. Yeah.
They like the little boy. They like their boys young, huh?
Yeah, apparently so. So, whatever the rich guess. It is 14 in Minnesota. I thought it was 15. But there you go. So yeah, 14 makes sense. If you're old enough to pay taxes, you should have.
If you're paying taxes, yes.
And how those taxes
are spent. It's the usual. I think the argument for dropping it to 18 was that you could be drafted at 18, and if you can die for your country at 18, then you can.
Right.
That voting is it's literally it's Starship Troopers logic, you know. It's military service and citizenship, and that's the service that matters when it comes to being a citizen. Not working and earning money or making value for capital. It's not when you can drive and you can basically literally hold people's lives in your hands if you're not responsible. No, that's not a test of responsible thinking. It's being able to die.
Being able to die
and be assaulted
and kill.
So I think there's a really good case of dropping it. At very least to 16, that's the intermediate step. But 14 is fine. You know, and it's the usual the only panic about dropping the voting age, like dropping from 21 to 18, was in the form of novels like Logan's Run and such movies at the time, where there was one where, I mean, basically any sci-fi where all the adults died and it's just people like under the age of, with Logan's Run, it's under 30. There's another one. There's a Canadian version of Logan's Run called 2030 or something else. I really liked it a lot. It was also a world where everybody was under 30, but it was because of the disease. But is that really the case? It's definitely it's dystopian. I mean, they're all dystopian sci-fi, of course. But Logan's Run was specifically based on like the reverse of Starship Troopers, where you have a veterans revolt taking control of the government. You have young people, the youth movement taking control and taking that slogan, "Don't trust anyone over 30," to its logical conclusion. Obviously, it meant kill everyone over 30.
And kill everyone.
And don't allow anyone to ever be over 30.
Right.
I actually read all of Logan's Run.
Never read it. I've seen the movie, but the movie was good.
Very different. There's some commonalities, of course, but there's a lot. Well, for one thing, the society is not in a dome. It is the whole world. And escaping that is going to the moon. So that's what the novel ends with. It ends with our heroes going to the moon. Because the resistance is just about Sanctuary is following the it's like the Underground Railroad, and it ends with, instead of Canada, going to the moon. In the society, which is a worldwide state that kills everyone over 30, or it does it via Soylent Green style, you know, with a kind of
just mashes them into food.
You go to no. I mean it like when you commit suicide, but it's really gentle and.
Okay.
Like you go to a store to do it. It's not a big show. I don't know why Logan's Run did that, but I think
operatic music and floating up and all that.
Yeah, right. They rewrote a lot for the movie. It's like, okay, we're gonna have it contained. So why would they die at 30, or how would that be processed by an insular society? Oh, it would be a show, something like that.
Okay. All right, let's continue on here.
I work for the council member, so I this is real. I just want to say that.
They can't believe it.
I can't believe it.
I mean, I can't tell you what numbers, but there's community garden, basketball court, fitness center,
air conditioning. Whoever goes for surveillance cameras, just please read that, just throw it away.
That's what I said too. I'm like, I think we probably got enough government.
Have you seen the riot porn out of Paris?
No, I have not been keeping up with that.
Then I recommend the latest System Fail from what's it called?
Okay.
Submedia. A lot of riot porn of basically the big riots in France.
Yes.
And the main, I mean, one of the things going on is, instead of smashing windows, they're smashing the surveillance cameras. Mass destruction of surveillance cameras.
Hell yeah. Kick out that big brother.
All you need is a multi-tool with the certain kind of blade, and you can cut those poles down. At least that's the footage.
To know. Good to know.
Thank you so much.
Can I get your signature for the new basketball court and stuff? Over here, over here, over here. Where's your mother?
Home, probably.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You want to look at the ballot here?
I went over there and voted. Yes, I went over there and voted and everything.
I told you, next one, we're going to have you in the assembly so you can tell us what you want on the ballot.
资源不满200万，让你来决定怎么花这笔钱。只要你住在38选区，你就有权利。还有那个安全的，好像抢劫那么多，6、7、8大道42街到62街装摄像头，还有一些关疏道路的，还有一些那个，只要你是住在这个区就可以投票。里面 ID 之类的给我。哦 ，OK， 那就没关系了，没事了。资源不满200万给社区的居民，那你来决定怎么花这笔钱。
¿Cuál es tu fecha de nacimiento?
¿Eres ciudadana? Y si no, pues tú sabes que tienes familia también que no tiene esos derechos, ¿no? Entonces, tener un salón comunitario en la biblioteca es muy bien. ¿Tiene algún otro?
Oh, hey, Jimmy!
It was a great turnout.
I think we killed it.
Nearly a third of PB voters were born outside the U.S. 2/3 of voters were women, and that's a larger share of women than voted in the local election.
Nice.
22% of people who came out to vote said they had a barrier to voting in traditional elections. And almost half of voters had incomes below $50,000. Wow. 14%.
I mean, they're out doing errands for themselves, you know. They're walking. Then, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
No car.
Eligible to vote because they were non-citizens. And in District 38, more than 2/3 of ballots were cast in a language other than English.
Okay, are we ready? Okay. The number 6 project, the Red Hook Library Community Garden. Here we go. The community room at the Sunset Park Library.
Sounds like they really need to
let it go.
The library.
Now the next and the final vote. 1,890 votes were cast for this particular project. Are you ready? Yes. Security cameras in Sunset Park. Oh yeah, hey, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, you're. Thank you very much.
Well, it goes to show that there is there is a desire for surveillance state, you know.
Yeah, I think they just don't know what to do. You know, they feel that there's a lot of violence around, and they just don't know how else to solve it.
There's a desire to know like what is going on. Like you can't even prove if there's crime or not if you don't have eyes on it or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's also generally there's the culture that like safety is made from eyes on the street.
Yeah.
So cameras are just a permanent set of eyes. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate.
No, I know.
Why does a working class person want surveillance cameras? I think they're not thinking it's some white bush lieutenant who's reviewing the tape and deciding like what's a crime, but it's an official witness when there's something happening. Yeah. So, okay.
Do you know what
But hey, that's
Go on. Do you know what New York State's laws are on like facial recognition in public cameras? Do they allow that?
I couldn't tell you if MPD's doing that yet. They probably are, but I'm sure it's been brought up to legislators. It's probably in committee. Could be stuck in committee. A lot of things are.
Sure.
You know.
That would be my.
This would need to be a research stream, and we could figure it out.
Yeah.
But
when will that money start funneling through? I was thinking about one of the natural questions.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about that.
When are they going to cut the check?
Right.
It's good people are excited though and feel like they're more part of the process.
So it's weird. This must be pretty old. Yeah, okay. It's saying. Sorry. Read it.
Yeah, this is from...
Re and rip.
4
Half
years
of
ago.
the New York City districts are now doing PB.
Nice.
But it's still 0.5%. No, not even. It's a... God, fuck.
Yeah, they said it was a very tiny fraction of a percent.
Yeah, 5% of a percent.
Yeah.
$42 million.
All right.
So just that goes to show just how fucking big the NYPD's budget is, and the budget for a lot of other things. I mean, this is just scraps, you know. This is just crumbs, but that's what the council districts are allowed, you know, to allocate for little things. Because otherwise, it's at a higher level, you know, building a new pool, for example. Whole new transit infrastructure. This is stuff it's up in the bureaucracy, and you can't make that participatory, or you can at least, like the DOT does, they'll have public meetings for public input. But that's not participatory. That's just consultative at best. So things really need to be restructured. Would need to be restructured if you were to have a more participatory budgeting process, but until then, you can at least do it with discretionary funding.
Yeah.
Which is here and there, but when it comes to austerity budgets,
a good step.
There's no such thing as discretionary funding. There really isn't. Everything is like you can only spend money if you require it, and you can't just acquire money to do discretionary things. That's wasteful. That's tax and spend, but that's exactly what libs should embrace doing.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's obviously a lot of work and campaigning to do to really kind of get this beyond just discretionary, but especially when New York allows for discretionary spending, but it only in the big metro areas. If you're anywhere else, it's like we're in a hole. Like it was in 2017. I was asking about PB, and I was told there was a steering committee that basically put forward a bunch of and these were sort of radical-minded people putting forward policies for the new mayor at the time to take up, and PB was, not considered or wasn't. It was dropped because there's just no discretionary money, and I'm like, could we get that money? But of course, Albany's always in a $12 million hole, so it's like we gotta fill that first. Then before we even think about having discretionary funding of anything. Like, we need to get grants from the state just to build splash pads or fix our pool or redo some of our infrastructure. It needs to be money directly from state agencies because they're requiring, let's say, for our sewer, and a whole water treatment plant is being built because of our double sewer system, where we're dumping sewage, and when we have an overflow event, sewage gets dumped into the Hudson River. Yeah. That's the whole New York City area, by the way. It's all of New York, but it's slowly being fixed little by little with projects through the state giving the DEC the budget to then distribute to municipalities to do something about it. Because otherwise they'd never have the money. And it kind of also goes to show in the past, all the things that cities have, public goods maybe, were donated by rich people. It was never they were raising the funds usually. They were never raising taxes to actually fund public goods. It was always like rich people or the New Deal. The New Deal was the only time I think you really had this mass distribution of discretionary funds of sorts. It's like, we'll build whatever you think will help you.
That's sad, but
that's how most
I guess
cities
this
have
is
public
you know.
pools. But the fact that we never had a second New Deal is why no new pools were never built, and so those pools have definitely like reached the end of their lifespan, or they've been rehabbed, and you just can't do anything else to it. Like with our Lincoln Park pool, which is it's a big pool, but it's a big circle. It's a very unique pool, but it's going to be replaced now with something that's I actually forget. I think it was the design I didn't like, but because it included a splash pad. But I'm like, we don't need no splash pad. There's every other park in my city has a splash pad. That's what they're building instead of pools.
Splash pads. Yeah. Maybe it's just so like the whole family can come at once, and you know.
Well, it's just
everyone
water.
from
You get
baby
sprayed
to,
with water, but you can't learn how to swim.
True.
You're not like black people are going to continue not knowing how to swim. I read an article about it was Louisville, I think. They basically have one pool in like the working class slash black half of the city, and
oh really?
they are like booked. They got 1,000 people who want to like do the swim program, and they can only do like a few hundred a year. So it's just like it's going to take years to go through.
Oh, geez, that's terrible.
So that everyone can learn something.
Yeah, that's terrible. Yeah, Minneapolis and St. Paul are much better about that. We have a lot of public pools. Some of them were definitely financed by private money. We have our Jim Lupiant Water Park, which he's a big dealership in the area.
It was always odd. There's a lot. When I swam with my grandpa or my mother's side of the family, they would pay to go to the country club that's in the suburb. Suburbs would have their own pools, private, white, because that's it was white, part of white pipe.
Yeah.
And of course, being a kid, I never had to pay, so I was never conscious that this was private and this was like not a public thing. But I'm like, why are we going here when we should be going to Lincoln or something else? Or why isn't there a pool closer? Why do we have to drive out to go, one of the suburbs? I never. Or it's bigger. It's a bigger pool. But okay, hand in front of my face. I'm luge.
You want to do the Barcelona stuff now?
No. Do the other
participatory one.
Yeah, it's literally the same topic, but it's spiffier and it's got music and it's got a bit more to it. But I won't interrupt.
All right. Oh no problem. Is this the one?
What could $1 million do for your neighborhood? Before we start our discussion, let's take a closer look at how participatory budgeting works.
Was this not the one you had meant?
It's weird. It's definitely the one I gave you.
Yeah.
From last time. But just play it.
Okay.
Because maybe I picked this one because I hadn't watched it, and I want something different.
Meerkat Media.
Oh no, okay, sorry. It is the video, but it's within that news.
Come out and vote. Decide how your tax dollars get spent.
Participatory budgeting gives people real power over real money to make the decisions that affect their lives. It's a democratic process in which ordinary community members directly decide how to spend part of the public budget.
Oh, this is different because you're actually voting for where the money is going to be spent instead of allowing them to decide where to spend the money.
Damn.
Who knows better about their community than the people that live in their community?
Not be afraid of the big words, participatory budgeting. It sounds boring, but it's the opposite of that.
So how does it work? First, people brainstorm ideas. They come together in meetings and assemblies and start to think of what kinds of projects they would like to see in their neighborhood.
We had to think big.
we have $1 million that we could use so we can fund parks, health issues, streets.
Volunteers work with experts to turn people's initial ideas into full project proposals.
We started with maybe about 40 projects, and so we had a series of budget delegate meetings, and we narrowed down the list into about 4 or 5 projects.
We met with the Parks Department and we talked about what we wanted to see change in some of the parks and how we were going to work with them.
What are the real needs of the community if you only have a certain amount of money? What is it that you can do that's going to benefit as many people as possible?
I'm dreaming of new benches, modern benches. Seniors have nowhere to go.
Displays at bus shelters throughout the district, and it will tell people when the next bus is due to arrive.
We're asking for a projector and 30 Mac laptops.
The MTA can't pay for that apparently. But I know.
Yeah, what the hell, man?
There's a lot of problems with the MTA. It's Wall Street, by the way. Wall Street it's the vampire squid is on the MTA, and that's why the MTA can't like build anything. Or it's always like it's terrible. It's not treated like the public good it is. It's really complicated, but that's on purpose, you know. It's like a labyrinthine, like
so ridiculous.
Sort of Bain capital, like you have people betting against MTA failure or something. But I don't know. I can't get. I'm not.
This is absolutely ridiculous. The most successful, most used mass transit system in the country can't even update its over 100-year-old tracks and trains and stuff.
Well, you've seen the memes of how fucking dirty it looks, all the stations.
You can't even clean up shit. Like
now, some are better than others, but that's basically the newer ones or the ones that are on the east side. It gets a little more depressing each time I use it, and when I'm down there, with how grody a lot of things are, but also sometimes you'll have in certain subway stations those the things saying when the next train's coming, and they are usually on the money. So having that for the buses is good.
That'd be awesome.
But again,
no reason you couldn't do it.
The MTA should have that at the stops.
Absolutely, they should.
State-of-the-art teen fitness center.
To put solar panels on a firehouse.
After volunteers share the top projects, the community gets ready to vote.
It's a way of validating every voice in our community and saying, you know what, whatever your position is, you live in our community, you have a right to decide, and that me as a representative and government should respond and should listen to that voice. Anybody could vote in this process, immigrants, whether you're documented or not, young people that normally don't get to vote.
Most people, they don't even know that CEOs can come out here and vote today. Some of them are really surprised. They said, really? I said, yes. They have a voice.
The projects with the most votes get funded.
The Red Hook Library Community Garden, right here.
Okay, we saw this part. But I did not see the cameras. They cut that from this one. That's interesting.
The projects are then implemented over the next few years.
They just picked one.
Yeah.
And the following year, the process starts again. People brainstorm new ideas, turn them into new projects, vote on them, and fund more improvements for their community. PB becomes part of the budget process.
I just roll the old proposals from last year.
Why not? Especially the more popular ones.
At least do a straw poll.
Sure. See if people are still behind them.
Yeah. If anything, it could be a matter of just we'll pick the next 3 down.
Sure.
And then we'll basically fund all of them that were, picked out. But obviously this is still in a state of scarcity. Ideally, everything would be funded unless it's, contradictory to something else. If you have 2 projects that are really literally just like we want to do this with this lot or this with this lot, those are the kind of decisions that should really be voted on when it comes to. There's all these projects and everyone suggested them as something that's needed, and especially when they're whittled down by the different committees as being valuable or practical. Okay, sorry. We got
definitely. Let's move on.
Becomes a new way of governing.
I think this is like the greatest wave of democracy coming into the United States. It started in Porto Alegre, Brazil in 1989.
From there, it spread all over Latin America to over 1,500 cities around the world. In Toronto, public housing tenants have decided how to spend millions of dollars on improvements to their buildings. City council members in Chicago, New York, and other cities have engaged thousands of residents in allocating discretionary funds. Entire cities have launched PB, such as in Vallejo, California, for funds from a sales tax,
That's
and
the
in
one I
Boston
mentioned.
for youth funds. Even schools and universities have used PB.
This was a great opportunity for you to be a part of government and better the city you live in. Who wouldn't want to take advantage of that?
You're creating a more educated platform of voters overall. So I think this can only be good for the big project of democracy.
That's a short video.
And you may roll your eyes at a $15 movie ticket, but not think twice about spending $3 on a coffee. But on a far bigger scale of priorities, should Brooklyn spend money on a new dog run or new mobile showers for homeless in Park Slope? That's the idea behind participatory budgeting, to get citizens involved in decisions that directly affect their communities.
Yeah, and it's spreading across the city. Joining us to explore it all is Melissa Appleton, project manager with the Participatory Budgeting Project. Welcome to BK Live, Melissa. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
And Chico Texador, co-facilitator with the Red Hook Initiative, youth organizers, and one of 10 high schoolers leading the process in that neighborhood. Thanks for being here, Chico. It's really nice to meet you both. Thanks for being here. Yeah. Melissa, they say participatory budgeting is true democracy in action. So how did the process go this year?
Really, really well so far. We just wrapped up the vote here in New York. I'm guessing there was a huge increase in participation. We had great organizations like Red Hook Initiative doing amazing outreach to get more people involved, and that's kind of what it's about, right? Reaching communities that don't typically get involved, that are underrepresented, and giving them a voice in how their tax dollars are spent.
All right, well, speaking of underrepresented, we always talk about young people. So today we weren't going to talk.
This rhetoric is used in the context of PB, and to me, it's true. It's stronger than when it's used in my context, when it's like consultative, you know. And that's where I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. Reaching out to communities that like are marginalized. You just like, and they're frustrated because they know people don't want to show up to the meetings to just consult the expert. Like, no, they want power. They want to be able to actually have a say. And so when you're saying they're going to have a say and have their voice heard, you're bullshitting yourself. You're deluding yourself, and everybody knows it. They're not believing you. They're not like it. They're going to be skeptical at the very least, and no matter how respected you are, but and really you're not yet, and you're not going to be if you're just kind of, I want to do good outreach for the process as it is. Everyone hates the process as it is. And that's why some departments will just say, screw it. We're just going to do an informational meeting. We're going to make the decisions. We're going to plan everything out ahead of time. And we're just going to tell the neighborhood what we're going to do. And that's what has just occurred with one of our main streets, Lark Street, is getting the street's getting renovated. And it's very divisive. Particularly because it's not really improving everything. They're not replacing all the trees they're going to cut down. And they've already cut down a lot of trees over the last 20 years. So it's not Green Street. It's not putting in bike lanes. What it is doing is undoing the damage that was done to the street in the 90s, the last time it was resurfaced and redone, where they put in cobblestones in the intersections, which kind of act like speed bumps for cars, but not really. They do uplift a bit, and the cobblestones get bigger and bigger gaps between them, which makes riding a bike dangerous. And I basically don't like using Lark because of that. But either way, if it's certain hours, I wouldn't bike on it anyway. But they're putting in some bump outs for the crossings, and that was getting people pissed off because there a few parking spots are going to be lost. I'm always annoyed when people that are pretty progressive think that losing parking spaces makes it hurt local business or something. It's like, no, it makes it easier to walk around so people stick around. I don't like walking up and down Lark Street because, I mean, it is hot because there are lots of trees, and it's not pleasant because of the car traffic that's on.
Yeah.
It is a main route. That's a county route. It shouldn't be. This is the strip of land that's basically like, if anything's going to get pedestrianized, it should be this. And in fact, we do it a few times a year, but for festivals. And it's like, wouldn't this be great if this was all the time?
Oh yeah, I've been to a lot of events like that. We got this open streets thing that happens every summer, and they'll pick a different part of the city and close down a whole street, and it's just so great. You get to see stuff in such a different perspective, because when you're in the car and you're in that space, you're going too fast, so you can't really take it in. And if you're on the sidewalk, you can't really get far enough back to really appreciate everything.
All right, let's
and
keep going.
Nice.
Although, actually, we could probably move on. I didn't realize. I didn't know what the rest of this video is, or unless you
okay.
watch this.
No, I think we got
it's
it.
got to be more of the same. But I wanted that first few minutes was.
Yeah. That was a little bit more in depth overview. All right. So now to Barcelona. Do you want to do?
Yeah, I guess so. By the way, I have not watched the whole thing, so.
Okay. Do you want to do how Barcelona is giving citizens control of their data?
Yeah.
Or the one about you want to do that one first? Okay.
Because that's that's when I type in platformism Barcelona, that's what came up.
Okay.
Because when it comes in the literature, when it comes to platform municipalism, Barcelona kind of is it's the co-op Jackson of platformism. Because they have a lot, like Barcelona has tons of movements and organizations that are libertarian municipalism in practice.
That's amazing. And every time I learn something new about Spain,
they were taking apartments from banks. They were just taking them because the banks were keeping them empty. Wow. They were doing MSMA. They were actually
that's what we should be doing here.
They were appropriating bank property.
Yeah,
it was a big fight, of course, and they because they had pretty much a mayor who was a libertarian municipalist, like from the movement.
Cool.
The Ignatos.
Yeah, I mean that right there goes to show that you can poo-poo electoralism all you want, but at the local level, it makes a big difference. One of your guys gets in there.
It was Barcelona was probably the case where it's like their Occupy movement actually took some power.
Actually did something. They coalesced around an idea and moved towards it.
The response was that the Spanish government overall basically passed laws limiting how much they can do. And that's something you got to tangle with, when you do municipalism. But that's the kind of antagonism is, I think, what the left is all about. We fight.
Yeah, we can't be afraid of that,
Antagonism is what creates the synthesis.
That's right.
Hello, everybody. So let's start today in Spain, in Barcelona. And how can we build cities around data sovereignty? And this is going to be the topic of this talk. And what is the role of cities today in a moment where we're facing major crises, from widening inequalities to climate change to migration to geopolitical and financial instability, job stagnation and wage depression, in a moment where nation states are really not giving structural answers to these global problems, and many talk about the crisis of legitimacy of the liberal world order. Of course, one response we see is the rise of more nationalism and right-wing populists taking power all over the world. But this is not the only answer. If we look at our techno-economic change, we are facing a big shift to the fourth industrial revolution. So we see trends like artificial intelligence, robotization, the Internet of Things, and automation. Automation of manufacturing, of logistics, of intensive labor industries that are going to really disrupt the government, our business, our society, with applications such as driverless cars, precision agriculture, machine learning in healthcare, or artificial intelligence in cybersecurity. So all these trends are going to be accelerated by the rise of big tech, and are we going to see robotization and big tech challenges, for instance,
Sorry, I missed what you said there.
Yeah, they're all power sucks.
Mm-hmm.
So
definitely are.
creation of monopoly power,
But she's talking
or
to
creation
Wired,
of
so
mass
she's gonna
unemployment.
She's talking to Wired magazine, or it's a Wired magazine, so she's got to start.
Right.
Need for new taxes, trade regulation. How are we going to face this big shift? If we look at the power of the big tech companies today, they are a new market power. And how to tame the big tech has become one of the fundamental political questions of our time. So these are the largest firms by market capitalization, are the tech giants today. And they have a combined market value of around $3 trillion US, and $1 trillion is offshored. So 80% of all corporate wealth is concentrated in 10% of the firms, and this value goes directly into share buybacks or payment of dividends, and it doesn't really get to all of us, to the ordinary citizens that are not really better off. What are these companies extracting? What these companies are extracting in the digital economy, it's us, it's our data. And of course, these are companies that in the first place received a lot of government funding. So data is the raw material of the digital economy, and it fuels artificial intelligence, what Tim Cook has called the data industrial complex. And this is a sentence from Angela Merkel in Davos last year, and she says, who owns the data will decide at the end whether democracy, a participatory social model, and economic prosperity can be combined. So basically, this is about democracy and the future of our society. Some economists talk about data extractivism as the fundamental economic model of the digital economy, which is a rent-extracting economy. And Shoshana Zuboff from Harvard Business School talk about surveillance capitalism. What she means is behavioral surplus, which is extracted, and the data of social behavior that is extracted by the population. Another issue that we have to face is the question of when artificial intelligence is becoming the fundamental technology of our time, and machine learning in particular, where governments and big companies are investing the next generation industrial strategy, lots of billions into AI. What are the social, ethical, and geopolitical implications of artificial intelligence? And the majority of experts agree that we want to end with black box algorithms in government. So we want to make algorithms public, and we want to make data transaction more transparent. So this is the big picture. What is the role of cities here? What can cities do? And I would argue that because we have a crisis of trust, cities is the right place to rethink alternatives. We can make cities a democratic laboratory for sustainable and more egalitarian alternatives. And cities can create public value, as I argue in my essay with Evgeny Morozov, Rethinking the Smart City. And Saskia Sassen talked about the city as one of the few places where those without power get to make a history. So this is our mayor. She's the mayor of Barcelona, Ada Colau, and she was elected into power campaigning from a citizen platform. She used to be the leader for the right to housing and the right to the city movement in Barcelona, and when she got into the government, she called for a democratic revolution. So I'm Italian, I'm not Catalan, I used to be in London, and she called me and she says, can you come to Barcelona and rethink the smart city from the bottom up, putting technology and data at the service of our people? And I said, this is a fantastic challenge, and I went to Barcelona, and for the last 3 years, we've been working with a team of civic technologists, hackers, cryptographers, and talented people inside the government to make this happen, to align the technology with the democratic agenda of our mayor. So the first thing we've done is to use collective intelligence for democracy. So instead of implementing an agenda from the top down, technology first, we implemented a people first agenda. And we have a platform, it's called Decidi in Barcelona, and we engage in a large scale participatory democracy process, which is a hybrid on offline democracy and online democracy. So today, 70% of the actions that are the government plan of Barcelona came directly from citizens. Citizens were able to propose ideas, to deliberate, to vote on things, and we have a participatory budgeting.
Unfortunately, see, Dan has cut out again. I didn't even notice. He's just completely gone. It's not even frozen or anything. So, man, apologies for that. Hopefully gets that connection up and going again, but we will press on.
Experiments that is really devolving more power to the citizens. 400,000 citizens participated to create the action plan, and now we are running 20 different participatory processes in parallel. So what it takes to redefine the smart city to ensure that it serves its citizens. As I said before, we don't start from the technology, sensor network, connectivity, 5G, blockchain. We start from the real challenges that cities face. Affordable housing, healthcare for all, sustainable mobility, the energy transition, public spaces, the fight to climate change. These are the things that our citizens care about, and only after we ask, how can technology and data help us to solve those challenges? For instance, Barcelona is now putting forward an experiment for renewable energy supplier. So it's a municipal company that is providing energy to all municipal buildings, clean energy, solar energy, and then to allow for an energy transition with thousands of private houses that can benefit from the generation of renewable energy. We have another project, maybe you've heard about, is the Barcelona Superblock. What we have done to fight climate change and improve the air quality of the city is to create 16 districts of the cities that are cut off to traffic. In that way, together with urbanists, designers, citizens themselves, we were able to grow more green space and to take back 60% of the streets that before where cars were passing. So a fundamental part of this rethinking the smart city is the question of data. And I think this question here is going to be a very important political question for the future. Will data be controlled by big business and the state, or by citizens themselves? And in our thinking, data is a bit like energy, is a bit like transportation, is a new public infrastructure. It's like the air we breathe. And we believe data can be considered a public good, a public infrastructure, and we can devolve the control of data to citizens themselves. And citizens can be the ones that decide what data they want to keep private, what data they want to share, with whom, and on what terms. So we put forward a new deal on data, a strategy that has ethics, security, and privacy by design baked into the technology that we create and we develop. And also, we make sure that cities can be the custodians of the new digital rights of citizens. And we also have processes in place to assess like automated decision-making and the question of artificial intelligence. So how can we make sure that there is accountability and transparency in the algorithms? Maybe we should make algorithm public and make sure that this can be inspected by a wider community.
Sounds good.
We also created some ethical digital standards. This is a project of digitalization of the entire city of Barcelona. And one thing we did was, first of all, to migrate a lot of the services to open source and free software. 80% of our IT investment today, it's done in open source and open standards interoperability, so that we can make sure that we take all the profit of IT infrastructure. And then we attack one main thing, which is procurement. So I know it's not very sexy, but procurement is at the core of what government do. We spend citizen money to improve public services and to invest in future infrastructure. So what we've done is we put clauses in public procurement contract that mandate data sovereignty. What it means is that providers that win the bids have to transfer to the city hall data in machine-readable format, and this becomes in the public domain. It becomes a public good, a common good. And of course, you can also bake into the contracts things like open standards, interoperability, ethics, and security by design, so that we make sure that we have a strategy that really benefits the citizens. Of course, with data, you can do a lot of other things: open data, open budget, so that you create more transparency, you make government more transparent and collaborative, and also fight corruption. For this fighting corruption, we create an infrastructure which is encrypted. It has cryptography. It allows for anonymity. It's like based on Tor, so it's like WikiLeaks. It integrates with the city infrastructure, so everybody, public officials, but also citizens, can denounce cases of corruption. We have a IoT, Internet of Things, and data analytic platform that the city controls so that we can better manage public services like energy monitoring, noise monitoring, water metering. We can see parking spots. We can do better garbage collection. And then we are able to do machine learning and data analytics on top of this data. And those platforms are all open source. Many cities are reusing them from Dubai to Helsinki, all around the world because it's open standards. We have also created the Mayor Office for Data Analytics with the intent to open the algorithmic black box, but also create capacity in government. There are around 30 to 40 people now with new skills, with machine learning capabilities, data scientists that are working to create good services and good application and open up the data to the startups, the innovators, the SMEs that can help us building new services for the city of Barcelona. We also went a little bit far, and we are now experimenting a project which is using blockchain or distributed ledger with a cryptography, a new cryptographic layer on top to give back data sovereignty to citizens. So we are building privacy enhancing, decentralized, rights-preserving infrastructure to give control to the people. Because we don't think that the data should be controlled by governments or by big companies, but by citizens themselves, so that they can start seeing what kind of data I keep private, what data I want to share, for what purpose, and with whom. And so we are thinking with lawyers also and cryptographers. This is a big project with 14 partners around Europe. What are the new data commons? How can we enable social and community rights to data? And now we are running 2 pilots in Barcelona. One, it links to our democracy platform, the city in Barcelona, so you can sign secure petitions. Citizens, when they engage online in a democratic participation process, they can control their data so that we don't have data manipulations like the one we're seeing with Facebook and Cambridge Analytica, for instance. And then we have an IoT pilot, which is an Internet of Things pilot, where people are putting sensors in their home, like Arduino boxes to measure air quality, noise pollution, and all kinds of different data streams. And then we are enable citizens to basically share those data in an encrypted way, and then
there we go. I think it's working now. Oh, no volume though. Dang it. Oh, no, there we are. I hear you now.
What is wrong with you, with the coding?
I don't know. I don't know why it's so hard to get you back each time.
I mean, I only lost signal.
Yeah.
And I think it was on your end, or because mine didn't change. Okay, regardless. I actually have been here, even though my window was blank. So
yeah, I don't know what that was about. It was not. I was watching from the perspective of viewers too, and it didn't even show a blank window. It didn't show anything. So
weird.
Something was going haywire.
But anyway, it seems like you're enjoying the talk. That's good.
Yeah, definitely, very much. It just seems like they just like did everything that you'd want to do, and they just did it, and then they did it, and then they did it, and it's all going really well. So
it is always mystifying. But I mean, there are memes about this. Americans, when they like encounter actual good governance, or people in government who do common sense things, because they actually share our political vision, more or less. But they just talk or look different because they're actually professionals, or they're professional class people who are putting our ideas in practice. Not our ideas; it's a shared vision. In fact, they're doing it better. We are always trailing behind them because of our archaic politics. But I think it just comes down to how decentralization is in the bad way is baked into Americana, that you do your thing and I'll do my thing and we all do our own thing and we'll never work together on anything because that's bad. That's how people control each other, through tyranny of the majority, blah, blah, blah. Right. Freedom is never doing anything together. So, but we of course will work together in our church and business and exploiting each other. It's such a contradiction. It's so, like, as a kid and teenager, I always missed, like, I could not understand this dualism of we're a community. We work together. We work for the good of society, and that's always there. But at the same time, there's still crass individualism that it's like but that's sort of what countercultures in America have always been kind of fighting against, the conformity, but the conservative version of conformity towards like society. You do things in a societal way. There is a society, but that society is apparently solely capitalist and liberal, and that's what matters. And and you have unions in there too. And it's so sorry. I'm kind of drifting away again to how at work I've been watching old Donahue episodes from the from 91 basically. So it's like the pivotal year between Zeitgeist, 90 the 90s and aughts Zeitgeist from the 80s, and 75 Zeitgeist. And then some 80s episodes as well, usually around gay rights, but then that bleeds into when he has punks on or something like that. And just to see the difference in attitudes, it has super changed. Like
really,
Donahue's okay.
Donahue's kind of unique though.
Yes,
like
again, he's unique in being a lib and actually saying we're a homophobic country, and he points that out. And his episodes were breaking that.
Absolutely.
You had a lot of viewers that are like, well, if Donahue's fine with the gays, then I guess I could be too. And that's because he would have people on his show of like a lesbian woman who's like, I was able to come out to my mother because we were watching the Donahue show together. And he's like, oh, he's such a personality, and he is so much better than Oprah, because I did watch like an Oprah gay rights
infinitely
episode.
Better. Oh yes.
And the difference is that Oprah's appeal is that she talks and acts like a housewife, so housewives love her, or people who are stuck at home, women who are at home in the afternoon for whatever reason. So she talks like them. She's like, her tone is not like Donahue's a reporter. He's a journalist. So when he's like asking questions, he's trying to get to the bottom of things.
Right.
Oprah's like, really? How did you do? Why would you do that? It's just of asking like gay, like, why would you want to be married? Like she talks like her audience. So it's just like, instead of being a mediator between the audience, and so like it really is annoying to me. This is early Oprah. That's like, she's just it feels like dogpiling on the guests. She has the tone that the audience has when they're asking accusatory questions. But I think Donahue's audience would be way more mixed. He would make sure he would add an equal number of conservatives that are just say, these gays need to go, be in the closet and leave us. I'm okay with what they do privately, but they can't be public about it. It's sick. What does it say to the kids? Same arguments, same talking points, never changed. But what did change from 91 on is a lot of things that you kind of tease out in these old episodes. That like you can see how things are like going to change. In the 80s, when he has punks on, and he's trying to get to the bottom of like, what are the punks about? Like they're super individualist. Their politics are all over the place, because he'll have like a Nazi punk with a Hitler stash, and then he'll have a punk with a swastika crossed out. But there are people in the audience that were fucking booing this guy because they not only thought he had a swastika armband, but just because he had a swastika that was crossed out. Like that was offensive.
That was offensive.
And he
not be reminded of
because it's Donahue and it's cable and it's and daytime TV, and he can't say fuck. He will not say he was sharing the lyrics from the song Nazi Punks Fuck Off.
Yeah.
But he would just call it Nazi Punks. And the punks in the
not
audience
even a replacement
that's
word.
not what the song's called. It's called Nazi Punks Fuck.
It's got some critical context.
Just cuts to like 2 seconds later. And he's like, dude, we can't say that. That's why I wasn't saying it. I mean, I was given copy where it just says Nazi punks. Okay, I didn't mean to like drop it. It wasn't intentional. But it's weird that they couldn't just change the word to like Nazi punks flip off
F off or
no,
bleep off.
they didn't do that.
Yeah.
Step off. I guess that wasn't in the lingo yet. That's just how far back it was.
I guess not.
You didn't even have that. But in the one of the 80s episodes, it was like 83 or something, or maybe it was the 79 one. You had a psychologist. No, I think it was like a 90 episode or 91. Maybe it was the 83 one. Now, I watched a number of them, so now I can't keep them straight. But there was a professional who used finger quotes, but he didn't do this. He just did this. He just held his fingers up. So finger quotes were not like, because I don't know when this started or like who started it. It wasn't Austin Powers. That's obviously popularized it. But
yeah.
It wasn't just in the 90s. Someone in the 80s, a doctor used finger quotes, but they were solid fingers.
Interesting. I've never seen that.
He did not do this.
Wow. No little bunny ears, huh?
No. So I found that fascinating.
That is fascinating.
Because these doctors because they're talking about what causes people to be gay, they just keep qualifying themselves, and these are like more Donahue having the publishers of the books that to us are like the classics, the first study on inverto hormone exposure, on causing gay children. And generally it's the same discussions and conversations today of like care about what causes it, and the doctors are like, well, we just want to figure it out from a scientific point of view so we can have these conversations, so we can make a society more tolerant. To say it doesn't matter. Because one episode was really about like, is it the parents' fault? Is it, and then of course, like even, Donahue himself is like, we want to make sure this isn't about blame, it's just like, and the doctors are like, there's nothing wrong. It's not blame, it's not like, it's not a disease,
right.
Like this. But anyway, back to platformism. So this is a excellent breakdown of cooperative platformism or platform co-ops that are usually in the digital field. When you have co-ops like, that are digital versions, because like these usually the one article is like the Death Star, like things like Facebook and Google are called Death Stars. And I don't know why in particular, but Death Stars, and the platform co-op being their opposite, democratic opposite.
Interesting.
But the other thought I had that I didn't get to express was that the digital economy is extracting data, and that's their raw resource. But the data is only valuable as a resource to sell to advertisers that are connected to then consumer goods. So the digital economy is not separate or even able to be separate from any other economy. You have consumer economy, and the digital economy is just something else that's built on top of it.
Used to funnel money.
And the consumer economy has the industrial economy under it,
Right.
So
makes sense.
Maybe there's kind of a means of like, you start the base of the economy, and that's what that will allow democracy and socialism to filter up, rather than, it seems like trying to transform the digital economy first, while the industrial economy is still very much capitalist.
Yeah.
Means you're just kind of glossing over at the level of consumption that's democratic, but all the production is not. And as long as that's the way it is, then the superstructure will replicate social reproduction.
That makes sense. Yeah, good point. All right, well, let's continue on in the video.
That licensing through smart contracts so that they can control the data. So this is our vision of a data as a public infrastructure, a city data commons that can be governed by cities, but in particular by citizens, and then the data can be opened up, of of course, in a regulated way with privacy and security by design, as the GDPR mandate, can be opened up to local industry, to startups, to SMEs, but also to cooperatives and to citizens themselves that can use this data to build data-intensive, artificial intelligence-driven services that will change transportation, healthcare, education in the future. So we need to rethink how we govern data in a way that it will be serving the public good and the general interest. And this is a way to do it. And of course, you can think about how this scales to a national or even a European level. Can this become a new data fund, a new European data infrastructure that can be governed in that specific way and can allow our industry to take back democratic control, but also to be more competitive? So we have created, when we unleash the power of data and when we unleash the power of the immaterial and digital infrastructure of the city, then we can have mission-oriented innovation in cities. And we have created an urban iLab, which basically brings together the city with companies, corporates, startups, and all the city ecosystem to solve problems that the city has. So now we're working on women in tech, mobility, affordable housing, the circular economy, and we're using data of the city, and the companies are helping us to really tackle the problems that we have. And there is a data city challenge that really uses data to do that. This can also enable a different sharing economy. As you know, many cities have been struggling with Airbnb or Uber, asking, how can we regulate these data platforms? I mean, they are creating a gig economy where they lower the kind of standards of labor, but also creating problems for cities about the price of rent, for instance, in the case of Airbnb, or in the case of Uber, they take up the market and it's not very competitive. So for whom is the sharing economy? Well, of course, cities are coming together to regulate the sharing economy. We're actually going to host a meeting in Barcelona this month where, together with New York and Berlin, we are thinking about how to regulate.
Service provision. Good lingo there, I guess. I'm always tied or torn between, and you know, this is my maybe anarchist side and my statist side.
Mm-hmm.
The part of me wants to reject all of this. Like, notice, like, you do all of this platformism, and then you will be working with. We're bringing the corporate sector, we're bringing the startups, and the entrepreneurs,
public-private,
and still capitalism and markets at the end of the day.
Right.
Part of me wants to reject this, but the statist side, the participate in on their terms is. The world is a theater, but it's also a battlefield. You know, the class war is waging, and if we do not meet the enemy on the field of battle and just give it to them constantly, then we can't be surprised when things get worse. You know, that the Ubers and the Airbnb. You know, if you don't create your alternative so that cities can say, oh, we can work with the platform co-ops and work with them and make something, you know, and we don't have to worry about regulating Uber and whatever in the gig economy because it will be outclassed. We will focus on one thing rather than another. We'll get away from. Sorry, I was looking at the new guy in the chat. Oh, so you wanted to ask, what's disavow extremists?
Disavow, yeah. I don't know what that means, but that's not what we're talking about right now. Sensible Center. Thank you for the follow, by the way. If you have any thoughts on the topic at hand, love to hear it. But yeah, this is not just like a general question and answer time. So
yeah, just check out what we're watching. Platform cooperatives in municipalism, which is very much centrist can consider. Because it's just.
I have no idea what you're talking about. So
are you talking about Antifa? Because then it becomes a meme question of like, Antifa isn't my enemy; it's me. But what is an extremist to you? A tanky, self-identified communist?
Doesn't matter. The point is, the weather underground. The weather underground. Yeah,
Who do
I
you
thought it was
stand
pretty.
with, Sensible Center?
God, I'm still
Who do you
seething
stand with?
about how the Weather Underground
Yeah.
whisked Timothy Leary off to Algeria back in the 70s. I could not believe that, and their failed days of rage that went on. So yes, I disavow
I guess we're
Weather
not
Underground.
fans. Yes. You're a Linskyite. A Linskyite.
A Linskyite. Okay,
Yeah, our
so
Bible is
so
rules for
typical,
radicals.
typical
No,
centrist.
sensible center. Whoever, if you're for, whoever, whatever age you are, consider reading Bookchin. That is there.
Yeah, there you
There
go.
are new ideologies afoot. There's leftism beyond what occurred in the '60s, and that is what some Antifa activism and actions about. But obviously, we're talking about actually how to take leftist ideas and make them work with local government. So we're talking about a type of politics that's way more real than whatever online brain stuff you're
Boogeyman
working,
that you've
what
conjured up.
milieu you're working within. But it's
Yeah.
but we're engaging because you popped in and no one else is here. So congrats.
No,
Yes.
but really, we are the ones who are setting the.
But you know
the
who I
topic
avow? I'm
for
Green
tonight.
Party. I avow the Green Party.
yeah.
I avow
Love the Green Party.
the SP, the IWW, the organizations I am a dues paying member of. That is what matters to me because that's real politics and real power
Absolutely.
building, not what terrorist groups or pseudo movements of the past or present. Because Antifa is a pseudo movement, it's just it's on the ground defense against Nazis.
Yeah, it's a strategy.
It's not real politics, okay?
Right. Antifa
So
does not exactly have a
hopefully
platform.
You probably I don't know if that's a sensible position to take. It's sensible to me.
Yeah. I love the sensibility part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's demanding purity testing of us.
Exactly.
That's not very sensible, and it's not very centrist.
No. Funny how that tends to work. That centrist
demanding
skews to the right when it comes down to it. But regardless, we have a different topic that we're talking about right now. Yeah. So if you have any thoughts on that, let us know. Otherwise, you
it's just funny to think that Alinsky is some kind of pivotal figure.
He has a huge boogeyman
today.
in people's minds. Yeah.
I know Fox News made him Glenn Beck certainly pumped up his stature as a influencer, but I can tell you he's not. Alinsky is not not his influence and effect ended in '99 basically. I think with the direct action and the influence from Europe in the '90s or whatever. Alinsky's version, I mean, his strategy and tactics were basically dead by the '91, and they were faltering by the '80s. I mean, he started in the '60s, and that's when he wrote his book. And even in his book, which I was perusing in the bookshop, I don't own a copy of Rules for Radicals, but even then, he's like, they're already adapting to our sit-ins and the way when we do direct action. It's just like they're going to keep adapting, and we need to keep following them or changing up what we do. But if you're always constantly changing up what you're doing, no one can really be certain of what you are as a movement and who can join something that's
cohesive center.
Like I know, be water,
right?
But eventually, people need to put down roots. You can't just stand in the same river. That's never the same river twice. But yeah, there's a lot of discussion to have around those questions.
But yeah, Alinsky was really good at organizing for unions. He did a fabulous job of that. That's really was his largest strong suit. Had some interesting ideas about disrupting public meetings, but other than that, I think
he certainly must have chilled out as time went on because if Obama was meeting,
he kind of faded away.
If Obama went to one of his teach-ins or something or whatever it was.
I have read rules for radicals, but I think I'm the only one I know who has. So it's not exactly
that makes you a Alinskyite.
I guess so. No.
Yeah, you read their book.
Whatever. I've also read Atlas Shrugged. I would not consider myself.
So you're not
a
a Randian.
No.
No, you're both.
But
all extremes are on the same team.
I don't think Alinsky is part of the zeitgeist anymore on the left. I gotta say.
Okay.
The full confession. Okay. I mean, if that's all you were here for was to get a confession, that I have read a book, then there you go. I've read a lot of books, actually.
Yes, I've read a book.
Yeah, right.
Jack Hughes.
I've read, but yeah, I've read widely. I've read F.A. Hayek's God Awful, The Road to Serfdom. Like I said, Atlas Shrugged. I've read one of those books by Bastiat that's so popular that was also just god awful. But I've read plenty of stuff.
Doesn't ring a bell.
It was like, what is a liberal, or what is liberalism, or something like that. And basically it just lays out what often
a miserable pile of secrets.
Yeah, right. No, it kind of lays out some of the principles of, like, what is termed classical liberalism these days.
Okay,
thanks for the follow, Shang Yang Gang. Yeah, let's finish up the video. So.
Shang Yang Gang out there.
Together, but also we can provide alternatives. Now we are investing in new platform cooperatives, in digital social innovation. This is a European project where the European Commission has put around 60 million, is led by Nesta in the UK. And we are experimenting with new cooperative model of service provision, like a Uber, which can be owned by the workers, which has good environmental workers and digital standards for citizens. And finally, we can also see new projects in the circular economy. Barcelona as a maker district, where we are unleashing the power of the maker community and rethinking future urban manufacturing and the circular economy, or experimenting with cryptocurrency, for instance, for basic income. This is a new scheme that we are piloting now in Barcelona, where we have a digital currency and a cryptocurrency to provide basic income to thousands of people in the city. And of course, if we don't enable the population to get access to digital skills and to learn to rethink the future of jobs in an age of automation, we're going to have problems.
We found
so that's why we're creating...
Now, of course, earlier in the talk, she was talking about using blockchain to do this platformism, right? So the whole, like, how do these techs, blockchain, crypto, how is this used by leftists, if ever? It's like, oh, it's all just capitalist tools. Here you go. But it has to be a state that's using it pretty much. A state can take these tools and do the things with them. It's not going to be a collective. It's not going to be in a garage. At least it's not going to be independent is what I mean, because then it becomes entrepreneurism, whatever.
Yeah. Definitely. All right. I do want to speed it along, though, because we're closing in on the end here. So.
Public fab labs or maker spaces where we teach kids about, digital fabrication and programming and the new digital skills. And we're putting these new skills and new methodology of learning by doing in the curriculum of all schools in Catalonia. So cities, of course, cannot do all these things alone. We need a network of cities that can replicate these policies, that can join to create new regulation, new projects, and can enable future experiments to thrive. So Barcelona is leading the Fearless Cities movement. It's a network of cities that can make a difference. Last year, we hosted the first big summit with 140 cities from all around the world, 14 countries, 5 continents. And it's a big movement that is trying to feminize politics, give answers to migration,
what do you think about that,
refugees,
what do you think about
rethinking the fight against climate.
Yeah.
I'll see what Sensible Center thinks of that.
I'm sure it can only mean hating men, right?
Climate change, but also putting data and technology in the hands of people to solve these problems and create future alternatives. And finally, I'm really done. What are the alternatives about digital supremacy war that we see where only the US and China, the big giants, are competing? Where the alternative is about democratizing data ownership and democratizing artificial intelligence that we can use as a public global good. And to reclaim digital sovereignty, starting from the bottom up with cities, giving more power to the citizen, but also in Europe, we must challenge the current narrative dominated by Silicon Valley's leaky surveillance capitalism on one side, or dystopian models based on unlimited data collection, such as China's social credit system. A new deal on data and artificial intelligence based on a rights-based, people-centric framework which does not exploit personal data to pay for critical infrastructure is long overdue. And I would argue this is about democracy, and cities can lead the way, and Barcelona can lead the way to make this happen. Thank you very much.
And there we have it.
So, Folk Pie Productions.
I think we did that last time, right?
Yeah. What is libertarian municipalism? From Debbie Bookchin. That was a good one.
Yeah.
All right, good stuff tonight.
Yep.
Thank you for bringing all that. Yeah, that's exciting stuff. This participatory democracy, even if it is a baby step, but it's. I think more than anything, it's really good to just give people that experience of participating in any sort of governmental process and being excited about having
those
control over
intermediate
their
steps, because otherwise you're left with a bunch of people going, "We can't do that. No one has the capacity," and so on and so forth. Are you an adult sensible center? We're just being trolled. I get that, but. Sweet child.
My sweet summer child.
You're an old woman.
So funny that you are centrist and yet you reject every single left-leaning even
idea.
A Bill Ayers blush. I'm not even familiar. I don't know who Bill Ayers is. Who's Bill Ayers? Is he another one of your Weather Underground people?
Yeah. Bill Ayers is the Weather Underground guy.
So the guy who is not in prison, who is like just kind of living his life.
They tested their ideas about, and they didn't work out well, so they stopped doing them.
Yeah.
One of their ideas was to go to blue collar bars or neighborhoods and pick fights, because they had this idea about they don't listen to our arguments because they just see us as hippies that are wimps or something. So we need to prove how tough we are by picking fights with them. And somehow that didn't work. So the left doesn't care about being tough, because in the 60s there were some leftists that did, and that's the Weather Underground. So if you think that their influence is having is lasting, then why are leftists? Well, there are leftists that care about being tough. They're the online tankies, which aren't real people, in my opinion. They're characters, clowns, literal clowns, entertaining.
They're libraries. Yeah. A lot of them, not all of them. There's plenty of people that I subscribe to the off left that I would not put in that category. But
so less time online. So we only stream 2 hours a week together, at least you and me. You stream playing Zelda. Very, very bourgeois of you.
I know. I bought it.
We don't stream that much because we're out living, and just as someone like Sensible Center, troll or not, spend less time online, more time in the library. There you go. But they seem set on trolling us, or trolling anyone, whatever.
Yeah,
I'm sure you're a very lovable, respectful person that will be have a very good and not just productive, but I mean a life worth living. Yes.
Yeah,
I can see it.
I know. Hijack enough Twitch streams,
and they're immortal.
Maybe someone will just be brought to their knees.
A statue will
confess whatever it is you assume about the left.
Hardly insulting.
Hardly.
Well, I guess we're not insulted by being called radical, but as a centrist, you would understand that if you called another person that might be insulting. Okay, let's wrap up. It's 10 for me.
All right.
So check out the Green Party videos that are online at the page shared. That's Green Party videos on YouTube. It's just Green Party videos, and it's basically all the talks from the National Green Party meeting that have been posted, and you can learn all kinds of stuff. Interesting talks. One in particular I joined in on was about male contraception. Basically, cool. We have vasectomies, we have condoms. That's about fucking it. And otherwise, we have no fucking control over how we have children. Once we ejaculate, our responsibility is, as far as society is concerned, over. We are merely just splooge machines, as Peterson might suggest. But with $23 billion, 1% of the military budget, we could have 10 different male contraceptives that are not hormonal, because that's the main problem. Most male contraceptives, pill or drug, cause acne. Some of them even cause loss of libido, which kind of defeats the purpose. All right.
Anyway, what's going on Three Lefts? What's left in Albany? So on and so forth.
Oh, an update. I did two. Yeah. Well, I did my last. Have you heard of Scott Ritter?
Yes.
I don't know if you have. He was on my show.
Oh, cool.
I had him on, but not like I didn't seek him. A friend of the show, Cynthia Pooler, who podcasted and had me as a guest. So she was also a producer of my community radio station. So she called me up and she's doing a fundraiser for him because he's doing a peacenik documentary. Basically, it's because he is a peace activist at heart, and that's what he is, and that's what we talked about is peace activist. Despite whatever company he keeps, because he doesn't care, he doesn't really have that kind of ideological gusto. It's just a peace activist.
Okay,
so, and that's good enough for me for the most part.
Nice.
And I haven't finished editing yet, so it's not up. So my last new episode was, what was it? Actually, episodes in a row, so it's all whirlwind, and most of my mindscape is with getting the station on good feet. It's one. I'm making progress. Is the bottom line, and that is what I'm doing in real life. And otherwise, awesome. Chores, summer chores, and whatever. Are you and what's ahead for you? What's August look like?
What's August look like? Finishing up my summer job as a landscape designer. Moving into the school season, planning to go to educational.
You said you were going to start a degree.
Industry.
Right?
I am mulling it over. I don't know yet.
Mulling it over.
There's very little. It's really hard to be a teacher right now. It just does not pay very well. So, continue on with being an educational support for students, adults with autism.
Kind of halfway there.
So,
or at least part of education, but
there's definitely a big part of education. But but I don't know if I'll end up staying in that career or moving on. My wife is doing a degree in.
That's right. She's the one. Yeah,
she's the one who's doing a social work degree right now. So that seems like there are a lot better prospects in. So maybe I will end up considering that instead because I can.
That wasn't one of the reports I was reading at work about how why aren't lower income people that go to college doing as well? Well, it's because people from poor backgrounds will get degrees in social work and things like that on average pay less than if they got a STEM degree.
I mean, it may be less than say an engineering degree, but
that just goes to show that the priorities of the system were screwed up. But at least in New York, we're actually, for the most part, funding. The state has stepped up to fund our university system. I was reading in recent articles that a lot of states, maybe red ones, they're just not funding their colleges at all. They've even their public colleges are just nonprofit colleges, but they're not subsidized in any way. It's just, the students, the families can pay the tuition. We're just They have an income stream, so we don't need to fund them. But get this, half of the private colleges in the country have basically closed in the last few years, and or at least projected half will be closing in the next decade. They're dying out. And apparently I saw an article about country clubs that are also in trouble. So apparently all these private institutions, people, started to get away from minorities, or because they were building them with their wealth.
Yeah.
They're losing them all. So I think it's either it's statism or it's barbarism.
Yeah. But I just checked out the stats, at least for Minnesota. Median income for social workers, 63,000, which is not bad. If both my wife and I were, that's median, right? The high end is, just under six figures. But if both my wife and I were pulling that in, we could do pretty well. We live pretty frugally as it is. So
it's not about, you don't need money if you're don't have to spend the money.
Right. Yeah. We don't have a lot of expenses.
All our projects should be about how do we be independent of capital, which is what a lot of hippies did, and they somewhat succeeded, but they weren't able to help other people do the same, or at least they started projects too, but it was the project, I guess the best they could do was harm reduction, so no one's truly doing well, or at least they're doing better.
Oh wait, your entire conception of the left is more government, isn't it? That's what socialism is. It's the old Richard Wolff, it's when the government does stuff, and if they do a lot of stuff, it's communism. Is that your personal definition of socialism? Because I hate to break it to you, but
they don't have definitions of anything. They don't know.
Oh, big government sucks. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Does big business suck? I wonder about that.
Do you live in a state where there's no government, no big government, or is there a big government? I mean, how do you know? How do you know? They don't know what they know.
How big is big government? That's true.
And they don't know how they know anything. From just the dialogue. But it's just bot dialogue. You're a bot, aren't you? Right. So, all right, we're going late. Yes, Shang Yang Yang. That is a good take.
Well, I for one am anti-effective government. I want government to be broken and just hemorrhaging money all over the streets. That's my ideal government.
Right. I do have a friend. He wouldn't call himself. I guess he wouldn't call himself anything. He was, but he wouldn't call himself a leftist either. He's not a political guy. But he does agree with a lot of me when we talk about co-ops or whatever. It's like, look, I don't care if you call it socialist or not. I just want it to be competent.
Yeah,
and
right.
Competent can be
competently
always with the Hobbes. Always with the Hobbes.
Nobody didn't say Hobbes. He said hops.
Hops? Oh yeah.
Hops. What is hops?
Hans Hermann Hoppe.
Oh, so it actually is. You actually did
Hobbes.
mean hope. Okay.
But okay. And what's his seminal
Hans
work?
Hermann Hoppe. Let's look up this big brain center.
This is not a bot. So what's the seminal work? I've probably seen this name before, but just in passing.
Oh, he's from the Austrian school.
Okay, he's Austrian school. Are you a member of the Libertarian Party, Sensible Senator? They do have a caucus, an Austrian school kind of caucus.
Hereditary monarchy is garbage. There's no such thing as divine right of kings. This is ridiculous. Come on. Are these like
what the fuck? Okay. Yeah. Well,
Libertarian Party's too far left for you, and yet somehow you're in the center. So you're in the center between libertarians and the far right. Gotcha. Oh, there's divine right of kings. Yeah, so.
Well, they said they're a centrist too.
Yeah, they did. So they're the ones who said we need to find a center between, what did they say, liberalism, socialism, fascism, all that stuff, which would mean what? Just like American conservatism? That's what we need? What constitutes far right in my view?
You, I guess. But you just text on screen at the moment. Can we invite people on? We got to close out, but
yeah, we got to go. All right, thanks for being on, Dan. Can't wait another couple weeks.
Thank you for the peanut gallery.
Yeah, it was entertaining. More centers between what, man? Between like a slave state and capitalism? That's the centrism you prefer?
Okay, guys. So the Overton window, okay, of left and right or political compass, whatever you want to use, is as applied to today's context. Not all human history. All right, when we study politics and our own lives, we are not talking about all of human experience. Your experience. What is far left and right that you can functionally act in your locality? Think about that. All right. Good night.
All right. Good night. See you next couple weeks. That was Dan of 3 Left Show and What's Left in Albany. Go check out his stuff. I will post it once more. You guys have been a lot of fun. Are you, in fact, the same person? Because you just happen to follow at the same time and have the exact same views. That would be interesting. I've never seen a double team trolling quite like this before. Oh, that's facts. Yeah, the most radical left-wing regime of all time. Wow. Point out something. No, I'm not even gonna go there. Argumentation ethics to be nonsense. I don't like hop. Oh, okay. Well, then I guess you're a very big difference between you two. What is so radical about our current regime? Just tell me. Is it because some corporations do rainbow capitalism, and some politicians get mad about wokeism, whatever that means to them? I'd just like to know. Or is it just that there are demonstrations against the police sometimes when they murder people? Where would you even start? I don't even know. But I gotta go. I really gotta go. It's been fun debating the finer points of what it means to be a centrist and whatnot. Well, oh, we have legal equality between men and women, and that's just so far left that we almost every adult can vote. Oh, shock, horror. Man.
Everybody should be able to vote.
These are extreme leftist positions to you. I guess if you want a constitutional monarchy or whatever, a hereditary monarchy, I don't even know what it is you're for. There's no such thing as centrism when it comes to wanting to roll things all the way back to feudalism.
Centrism is complacency.
I don't really care about historical standards, and that's not by even historical standards. That's still on the rightward end of things.
Wait, are we talking about Bernie Sanders? Because Bernie
Sanders
isn't that far left.
No. He's saying that monarchism is centrist by historical standards. Like, whatever, man.
But we live now.
The left has gone quackers. Okay. Well, you've really had a lot of opinions about the left, and I haven't heard you say a bad thing about the right. That's so strange. Sensible center.
What's your thoughts on poor people?
Oh my God! Don't even get them going.
What are your thoughts on not white people?
Yeah. You think we need a compromise between feudalism and liberalism and socialism and fascism? That doesn't even make sense. So we need what we have right now, because that's somewhat in the center of all of those very diverse range of ideologies. So not going back to feudalism. No, I don't want to go back to feudalism. Feudalism is garbage. Why would you want that? Why would you want that? Do you think you're going to be a lord and have some serfs to plow the land for you? Why would anyone want that? Ah, the left equals more government. There it is. Yeah. Mandated bio-Leninism? What the hell does that even mean? Bio-Leninism and LGBT fascism. Aha. So you don't have the right to be totally offensive to people. Wow, how fascistic. I'm sure Der Fuhrer would be proud of how far we've come, even though the LGBT were some of the first to be sent to concentration camps. But hey, I guess that's just an inconvenient fact of history, right? The German Empire would have been way more in the center. A lot of this German idolization than modern Western liberal democracy. So you want to go further right than Western liberal democracies. I don't know why you're even talking about socialism. How does that even triangulate into your idea of what's the best? Has progressive blasphemy laws. Okay. So you can't slander people? Is that your problem here? Only gets by because of corporate censorship. Corporate censorship? If that wasn't in place, you'd be bullied offline. Oh no. It's a real shame that the entire internet can't be run like 8chan. I know. It's wow. Thank God for corporate censorship. Otherwise, you could just be making death threats and slurs left and right, and it would just be a total. It's centrist paradise, right? You think the working class have legitimate claims to economic power insofar as it contradicts a strict liberal view of the economy, like in the German Empire.
Oh, that's an excellent model.
Yeah. Okay. German Empire, first regime with national health insurance. You keep saying the German Empire. Why are you saying the German Empire? Kind of seems like you're not just talking about a general German empire, but a specific regime. Only has presence online because you have big social media corporations making it a hug box for you. Curious? No, not at all. That's not the only reason we're online. We were online far before the major social media groups even got involved. I've been on forums since early 2000s, and yeah, there's moderation there too. And the thing is that people just get really bored and grossed out by constant right-wing rage and slurs, and it's just not a place that people want to be around. So they create spaces where they can prevent that from happening, which is fine. I don't care. I don't want the grossest people always being able to enter my space and say terrible things to me day in, day out. Is that what you want? Is this some kind of like free speech paradise in your mind or something? Wait, before the Weimar or the Weimar Republic? Like the German Empire. Oh, you wanted when they actually lived under a monarch. Okay. Under the Kaiser, right? That's what you want to bring back? That sounds horrible. Yeah. That's a good one. Elon liberated Twitter. Elon is sinking Twitter. Really? I never liked Twitter, by the way. I've been on it for years. Never really found a use for it. It's just full of the most disgusting people saying disgusting things that really don't make you feel good about humanity as a whole. So why would anyone want to subject themselves to that day in and day out? Oh, so even that German Empire was too left-wing. It's interesting we just keep on drifting rightward in where you think we should end. So we're already at monarchism, but we need to go even further than that. Okay. Centrism. Christianity in general is going back to the medieval period and has leaned a bit too leftward, in my opinion. So you want to take us back to the medieval period in Europe, I would assume, not the medieval period in the rest of the world, which was, developing mathematics and wondrous technologies and stuff. But you want to go back to the medieval European period. Sounds just lovely. I can't wait to be a serf, have all my family just tied to the land, never being able to go anywhere. But I guess once in a while we would get a feast, right, from the Lord, assuming the harvest was good. Sounds just great. I know. I'm getting messages from Dan just to let you guys go, but it's kind of fun. The Nazis. Oh, okay. So we're to the point where we're saying the Nazis were left wing. The Nazis slaughtered their own left wing first. The Strasserites, the ones who wanted to bring certain socialist ideas into the Nazi Party, were the first to be slaughtered by the Nazi Party. Interesting that, huh? And then it was followed by the communists and any sort of intellectual liberal. But yes, they were very left wing because what? I guess if your conception of left wing is only government is good always and bigger always, then maybe you could work out a really mangled argument for that to be the case. Populism is not all left-wing. There's right-wing populism. Trump proved that pretty well in recent times. Come on now. You can do better than that. Yeah, because they're competing for power, because that is what the essence of fascism is. It is a strategic alliance between yourself and any other group that is convenient at the time. That as soon as they are no longer convenient to you gaining power, you destroy them as best you can. In the case of the Nazis, literally. Yeah, so it's not surprising that they did that because of that, but it doesn't matter. They cut out the nominally socialist wing of their party first. So to say that they're somehow left wing is just so ridiculous. Like, come on. Wow. Okay. So now you're saying some Nazi propaganda stuff. So that's where I'm going to have to leave you. You need to stop that right now if you want to continue on ever again. Yeah, these are 8chaners. Yeah, I'm glad the internet is not all 8chan. I'd be happy with a nationalized option, like run by the government and that sort of thing, in terms of social media. But yeah, I don't want the most disgusting people just bullying everyone off the internet. That sounds horrible. Why would you want to live in a world like that where you're all just sharing rare pepes with each other, and that's like the height of your day, and you don't ever get engagement from the people that you really want to trigger anymore because they've all just decided that you're basically the kid who jumps into the pool and cuts a big turd and screams at everyone, "Oh, so much for the tolerant left," as everyone swims out of the pool because you're gross and no one wants to be around you. But if the internet was all that, they would only end up, in your mind, it would only end up being you. And then what would you do? You can't exist without a left to rage against. They like most of your identity. So I don't think you actually want that. I think it's actually, and not to mention, y'all take it as such a badge of pride when you get banned off of whatever social media platform for saying disgusting things. Time to nationalize 8chan. It's time to just wipe 8chan off of the internet. It serves no good purpose. It is a really good case study in why there cannot be absolute free speech, because it leads to actually people getting murdered. So, yeah. Need to speak to the younger generation. More rowing than you remember. Oh, come on, man. Gen Z, and especially Gen Alpha, are only more and more progressive, only more and more amenable to socialism as the old hold of the Red Scare fades away into not even living memory. So censorship could lead to people getting killed, but censoring people, harassing people, no. In order for something to be a right, it has to be balanced with the right of everyone else to do the same, right? So bullying shuts down people's rights to say what they want. Threats, harassment, chilling of others' free speech destroys their rights. So then you have to draw the line at that point. Oh, yeah. I'm getting messages from Dan. I know. I know. I know. There's no winning this game. Of course you are. Of course you are. That's all I really need to know. Well, it's been real. I can't say it's really been fun, but it's been a thing. So, yeah, I guess I'll just end the stream there, and you guys can have fun debating which of you is the most. So yeah, okay. Go pat yourself on the back because you said a bunch of stupid things, and I've gotten bored with you. Way to go. You win. Have a good one.